What's going on, y'all? Jordan with another episode of Lightning Latest. Yesterday we talked about a few different items. It's pretty interesting. But today we're going to start with this redraft that the Athletic did for the 2022 NHL draft. And it's pretty interesting. You know, as a lot of people remember, the Bolts took Isaac Howard with that pick. Unfortunately, now he's an Edmonton Oiler. So, you know, we're not going to be able to see him on the third or fourth line this year. But that's neither here nor there. So it's interesting because this redraft has the Bolts taking another offensive player, and that is current Winnipeg Jets center/winger Brad Lambert. He's only played 6 games at the NHL level, 2 points in those 6 games, so nothing too crazy or not too big of a sample size. But he has played well in the minors. And it might be time for him to take that next step and continue his development in the NHL. Now, as we know, the Bolts are trying to get better on the third and fourth lines. It was a real problem area for them last year, and it showed up in that first round loss to the Panthers. So, if there's a way they could do that, like bringing in a young player like a Lambert to fill like that fourth line role, just to see what he has. You know, it can't hurt, right? But it's better than what we had there last year. So, let's be honest. Seeing something like this wouldn't be, you know, too bad of a thing 9 in, 9 out, right? That being said, I would have still preferred to have Ike Howard, but, you know, he's going to be an Oiler now. So, we're going to move on past that. Now, we've talked about the next year's free agency period a lot more than this year's, but we'll touch on this year's right now with, you know, Gage Goncalves. And it's really interesting to, you know, talk about this little bridge deal he has. It's, you know, 2 years, $1.2 million, similar to bridge deals that Bree-Boy in the front office has given out in the past. And this is pretty good on both ends, right? Because let's think of it this way: if Goncalves breaks out, if he truly breaks out, has that next level, can even be, you know, a second line guy, or maybe even more than that. Who knows, right? Because the Bolts have had plenty of experience in the past turning those later round guys into star players. You know, take a look at Cooch and Point, right? So they don't know if he's going to be like that, or if he's just going to be like that solid third line guy who, like a Yanni Gourde, like a Tyler Johnson, that can contribute offensively and in other ways be a scrappy player. But either way, that's great because all contenders need those players. You know, he improved last season as the season went on, right? He got better with time, and that's what you want to see. 20 points in 60 games, 8 goals and 12 assists, so not too bad, right? If he can contribute more than that this year, maybe give us, you know, 30 to 40 points this year. That's a nice step up. You know, I'd really like to see him play in like around 70 games too, if that's possible. 70, maybe the full 80, 82. So we'll see what happens. I feel like this is a good deal for both sides because if Goncalves breaks out and goes crazy in 2 years, even though he'll be a restricted free agent again, he can be like, look, this is what I've done. I think I deserve more money. So, good deal for him moving forward. But, you know, we're going to take a quick peek at our own 2026 free agents here. And it's pretty interesting because, you know, we have really about 3 wingers and 3 defensemen that are going to be free agents. The most notable winger is Oliver Bjorky. He's going to be about 30, you know, and he's contributing well. Still be in his prime. You know, it just depends on how long of a deal he'd want. As we know, the cap space is going to be going up and up. We're going to be talking about that here shortly. But, you know, if you want to re-sign him, that'd be fine because it would show that he's probably continued to contribute a solid amount of points per year. Goals and assists, he's able to contribute on that third, fourth line role. Which, again, that's what the Lightning need to improve, right? Possibly even as a second liner. We'll see, you know. So, could be an interesting free agent. Not could be, should be. And especially if he continues his level of play. Also, a couple other wingers. Mitchell Chaffee is one. and Boris Kachuk is the other. You know, we've talked about them improving the depth of the team, right? I feel like Chaffee and Kachuk really don't do too much this year. They could be replaced depending on who's out there via trade or free agency next year. We've been talking a lot about the bigger names as of late. But tomorrow we'll dive back in and we'll talk about, you know, a couple more big names within some smaller names that could really help the Bolts that are more attainable. But, you know, we also have 3 defensemen that are going to be free agents, and that's, you know, pretty noteworthy. One of them is Darren Radish. Again, if he shows improvement and shows he could be more, I'm not opposed to re-signing him, but, you know, improving the depth goes both ways, right? We have to improve the third or fourth lines on offense, and we have to improve the third and fourth pairs on defense. So, if we can do that, it'll give us a better shot at getting back to Lord Stanley, and that's what we all want. So, these next 2 defensemen are pretty important. First is Ryan McDonough, because even though he's gonna be 36, he's been playing great, you know. And it would be really interesting to see if he wants just like a short-term deal with a solid AV, wants more money. If he continues this high level of play, he could ask for more money. The Bolts could afford it, especially because we'll be talking about the cap here shortly. They could afford it in theory, but it depends on his play this year, if it's worth it or not. Surely, you know, a lot of people would prefer if McDonough stayed with the team until he retired, because, you know, he's pretty well beloved. But, you know, if he starts to regress this year, who knows what will happen. Lastly, though, most important, is J.J. Moser. So J.J. Moser, 25, going to be a restricted free agent. So the Bolts' odds of keeping him are greater. However, if he continues his progression this year, like he did towards the end of last year, especially if he can get up to that first line and play with Hetty, or get on that second line, if he can continue the improvement he's shown, it might be smart to go ahead and lock him in long term now. You know, it just might be the right move, especially because, you know, we're gonna have the cap going up, right? And it's pretty important. It's going to be around $104 million according to Sport Track in 2026, 2027. In this scenario, the Bolts would have almost $28 million in cap space. So it's pretty darn good. And that leaves a lot of room for improvement. You can re-sign a Moser and a McDonough, right? Especially if Moser's, let's say they give Moser a 4 or 5 year deal, right? And it's around $4 or $5 million a year. Much higher AAV that he's at right now. Not quite, you know, to star level yet, but that shows that they're committed to him. Maybe a little more, but maybe a little longer, but that's okay. Especially if he's continuing to improve and be better, then a signing like that is worth getting into some of that change. So is a McDonough one. If it's a short-term deal, like 2 or 3 years, and he's still, you know, producing relatively well as a second or third line guy, then that's great. I'm all for it too. The other one is Bjorky. I think he'd be good re-signing too. He'd be a good third line guy moving forward. Yanni's already been re-signed for a few years, and we'll talk about that in the next few days too. But I think he'd be a pretty good re-signing. He's shown in the past that he's able to score goals, especially in bunches. He can be kind of streaky, but that's okay. Sometimes you need a player that go on a streak and help carry you through a couple patches of games. So it'd be really interesting to see, you know, how much it would cost to retain the 3 of those guys and then go pursue other players. You know, the past couple of days we talked about Kirill Kaprizov. We talked about Connor McDavid. They'll be free agents, right? Other big ones include Jack Eichel, the Vegas Golden Knights center, Kyle Connor from the Jets, Artemi Panarin from the Rangers. I don't think the Bolts will go after really Panarin as much because he's older, but who knows? right? In the right situation, in the right deal, anything's possible. And we're going to talk about some other trade possibilities over the next few days too. The goal is to get this team back to the Stanley Cup. The last 3 years, we really haven't done that. And it's been, losing to the Maple Leafs, losing to the Panthers. Those are teams we were wiping the floor with a few years ago. We need to get back to that. So, if we can use some of this cap space to build a better, stronger team, I'm all for it. But in Breboy we trust, in the front office we trust, they've done pretty good so far. We just got to get back to where we were. Because there's going to be a lot of change in the next few years, especially with ownership changes and stuff like that. I want to make sure that this team is well worth it. Because there's so much that that has left to be done. So, this is Jordan with Lightning Latest. I'll see you guys later. We have so much cool content starting tomorrow too. We're going to hop back into these, big marquee what-if previews. Also want to talk about the goalie situation a bit as well behind Vasi and some other thoughts as well. Really excited to share that with you guys. But we will go ahead and see you guys tomorrow for the next episode. Can't wait. See you guys then.